Society tells us that by our late 40s, we should be winding down, locking in our routines, and getting ready to be comfortable. But my wife and I just packed up our lives, rented out our old condo, and moved into a new investment property. Most people our age are looking for maximum comfort and minimum risk. But this doesn't sit well with lifelong learners, because comfort doesn't create your best life. Hi, this is Mike. I'm 49. I used to be unhealthy and unmotivated. Then I spent over 20 years creating my best life, and in my 40s became a martial artist, a certified personal trainer, and a content creator. This is for the lifelong learner who's too old for egos and too young to quit. Today's video is about why starting a massive new real estate venture in your late 40s isn't crazy. It's just a new system. Let's talk about the timeline we're all handed by society. You know the exact one I'm talking about. You go to school, you get a safe job, you buy a house, you slowly pay it off over the next 30 years, and by the time you're pushing 50, you should be chillaxing, building a dad bod, and watching sports on your big screen TV. You're supposed to be done taking risks, but if you've been following this channel, you know I've never been great at following traditions. I spent the entirety of my 20s completely unhealthy and unmotivated. I was exhausted, lacking direction, and letting life happen to me. It wasn't until my 30s that I woke up. I learned how to manage complex systems in technology and discovered the power of discipline through physical fitness. But to achieve anything worthwhile in life, you need more than hard work and motivation. You need a good system. Systems and discipline carried me through my 40s. But recently, I needed a new challenge. Since my wife is an agent for EXP, I decided to join her in the real estate game. We started a new company called Kultura Living, LLC, to act as our home base for our new real estate investment opportunities. So here's the current reality of being in my late 40s. My wife and I moved out of our primary residence and put a tenant in it. And we moved into an investment property that had previously been run as an Airbnb. The plan? Live here, optimize the property, and do it again. When we tell people this, they look at us like we have two heads. They say, Mike, you're almost 50. Shouldn't you be settling down by now? And my answer is almost always exactly the same. Settling down sounds an awful lot like giving up. Quick pause. If you're getting any value out of this, please hit like and subscribe. The goal right now is 500 subscribers so I can officially unlock the Dear Best Everyday Shop right here on this channel. We are incredibly close. Now, let's not romanticize this process for YouTube. Moving is terrible. I didn't even hire movers or rally up some friends, and much of it involved taking a train. This was a very specific kind of torture. I envisioned both the best case scenario and the worst case scenario. Let's just say it was closer to the worst case scenario, as in the middle of it, I got the worst flu in my life. But it didn't stop me. When I felt the chills coming, I knew it was going to be over for me for a while. I took a shower, and by the time I got out that shower, I was in bed for about 14 straight hours. But as soon as I woke up and the chills were over, I figured I could sit here in bed or finish up what I started. So I finished what I started. But the physical exhaustion and sickness are nothing compared to the mental friction of investing later in life. You simply don't know what you don't know. We needed a blueprint. As lifelong learners, we put our pride aside and decided to become students all over again. My wife and I recently joined Pace Morby's SubTo mentorship. Pace heavily influences how I look at modern business, and his community of creative financing was a massive wake-up call. New systems, new language, new everything. Even though my wife is an agent, being an agent and dealing with real estate investing is not the same thing. Investing requires knowledge of subject to deals, seller finance, wraps, tenant screening, and market analysis. We became white belts all over again. which is exactly where lifelong learners belong. But here is where the reality of the trenches hits you, and why you can never just blindly follow one playbook. We found this property. We loved it. We ran the numbers, and we pitched the seller on a creative financing deal. We wanted to do seller finance. But guess what? The seller wasn't into it. The guy was ready to, as he put it, sail off into the sunset, and he wanted a traditional close. A younger, more rigid version of myself might have walked away out of frustration. But discipline means adapting your system to the reality of the board. We didn't quit. We looked at the numbers again and realized the deal still made sense. After coming up with some creative personal strategies, we just bought it traditionally. That is the unglamorous work of building a business. It's intimidating. I look around and see these real estate communities, and you see these 30-year-olds who apparently own 40 doors and are doing zero down deals every week. It is incredibly easy to let the ego creep in and whisper, "I'm too late. I missed the boat. I should just go back to what's comfortable." Let's talk about obstacles for a second. Because when you're pushing 50, it is incredibly easy to convince yourself that your age is the obstacle. We tell ourselves we're too tired, we have too much to lose, or that it's just too late to pivot. But the obstacle in life isn't your chronological age. The actual obstacle is your ego. It's your unwillingness to suck at something new. It's the refusal to be a beginner again. There was a book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And if you are on this channel and you haven't read it yet, you are doing yourself a disservice. I'll put a link in the description below. The core Stoic premise of the book, based on the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, is that the thing standing in your way isn't blocking your path. It is the path. Think about how that applies to our timeline. When I was studying for my personal trainer certification in my mid-40s, being the oldest guy in the room was humbling. But you know what? The iron didn't care about my age. A 50-pound dumbbell doesn't suddenly weigh less just because you discovered new ear hair that requires a specialized grooming tool. The iron just demands the work. The real estate market operates in the exact same way. The housing market certainly doesn't care that my wife and I are starting real estate investing right now instead of 20 years ago. The market doesn't care about our gray hair. It only cares about the math, the discipline, and the system. The massive friction we felt over the last few months, packing up our comfortable lives, turning our old condo into a rental, fighting for this new property. That friction wasn't a red flag telling us we were making a mistake. It was the universe telling us to go sit down on the couch and settle down. That friction was the exact resistance required to build a new muscle. Like the book says,
"The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way."
It is simply the daily reps of life. Speaking of daily reps, creating your best life requires a system, and you need to put in the work. Check out the Do Your Best Everyday shop for mindset gear and apparel to inspire your journey. From athletic and lifestyle shirts to water bottles and mugs. Free shipping on all US orders. The link is in the description. I'm not sharing this just to give you a life update. I'm sharing this because the exact same principle applies to whatever you are avoiding right now. Creating your best life demands action, especially when society tells you that you're too old to start. The Stoics had a brilliant way of looking at this exact dilemma. Seneca famously wrote,
"It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it."
Let that sink in for a second. The societal narrative tells us that our 50s are for coasting because our time is supposedly running out. But the mathematical reality is, if you are in your 40s right now, you still have decades of highly capable, highly intelligent, and highly experienced life left to live. Starting real estate investing in my mid-40s, building Kultura Living, and planning to scale it through my 50s, and possibly even 60s, isn't a detour from my path. It is the path. I like to think about it like my work in technology. A property is just the hardware. The tenant management, the cash flow, the maintenance, that's just the software. I am taking the exact same systems I used to build my tech career and I'm simply applying them to a brand new asset class. So here's your actionable solution for today. I want you to sit down and audit your life right now. I want you to find one specific area where you have actively decided to settle just because you feel like you are past the acceptable age to change it. Maybe it's a lingering injury you've accepted as permanent, or maybe it's a business idea you gave up on, or maybe you finally want to start a YouTube channel, but the tech feels overwhelming. If that's you, check the link in my description for my one-on-one content coaching for older creators. But whatever your specific obstacle is, I want you to write it down on a piece of physical paper, even if it's just a sticky note. Then, right beneath it, write down one system, just one single daily action that disrupts that settlement. Because let's face it, we aren't kids anymore, and we're not done yet. Before you go, please give this video a like and a subscribe. And if this hit home, check out one of these other videos right here. This is Mike. Thanks for watching.